Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Optimising RPG. Today I'm going to be taking you through a hold called 10 Minutes Distraction. This is a very, very short hold. Its central gimmick was that it was made really quickly. I think it was about 45 minutes from start to end was its construction time. It's interesting, it's very short. It has some real health management issues. So the final boss of this hold is incredibly draining on your HP, and that is going to affect how we make certain decisions in this. But this hold is short enough that we're actually just going to run through the whole thing. There are 2 score points and we're going to do them both. So let's get started. So nothing to do in this room. We have to kill this brain, so this is not really a decision. This hold does not have any percentage damage in it, so we can just pick up this health straight away. So far at the start, it's so easy. There's not really any decisions. Now to continue with the rest of the level, we are going to need 3 yellow keys. So where are these yellow keys? Well, here is one, and it's behind a green door. And here are 2 more, just behind some monsters. And the final room here has no keys, but it does have a wooden sword, and as a wooden sword is going to be a very big deal, so we should think to get that straight away. It also gives us a green key, which allows us to get into here, which is the only other place that has stats. So because we want the stats first, we're going to go here first. So we basically have a choice. We're not really able to get enough money to get through here reasonably, but we can either kill this brained Wraithwing for 330, or we can take 1 hit from an evil eye. Well, hopefully it should be fairly obvious. You see, 54 damage. That's just way cheaper. Now to get out, either we need the money, which we don't have, or we got to kill these roaches, so we're just going to kill them. And this gives us the green key to open this door. As soon as we pick up this attack gem, this Wraithwing is going to become much cheaper, and it's going to be a while until that Wraithwing gets cheaper still. So getting the defense now is a good idea, because we are unlikely to substantially reduce that Wraithwing in damage, and the defense is useful straight away. So now I've picked up that yellow key because we have no choice other than to pick up all the keys to continue. So we're just going to do that. So that's sort of the bare minimum of what we need to do to carry on with the level. We've left behind some enemies here, and we've got a green key, and we've got 150 health. So we'll leave these for later, and we'll just carry on and see what's ahead. So here, the Roach Queen, it's not possible to make it any cheaper or to do anything different, so we're just going to kill it. And we don't have a blue key yet, so we're just going to carry on again, not a real choice. Now this is the first time in the hold where we've sort of had a real meaningful choice show up. We can spend 20 Greckles to get 2 attack and a bunch of health. And looking at these enemies here, we will save if we get the attack on the roach. Now we do get to kill the brain first, it doesn't matter whether we take the attack. So what will we actually save on the roach? We're going to save 8 damage if we pick up the attack before killing the roach. So is that a good idea? Or is the money going to be more useful for us to use later? Well, we can't answer that question right yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a quick save, and we're going to barge ahead anyway, and we're going to see what sort of value this money is going to be giving us to decide whether we want to take this attack or not. So that's the first level, very straightforward. The real options all come in this next level, so this is a pretty tricky level, and this is the main thing where the difficulty of this game, this hold, comes from. So this is the boss, the Mud Mother. The first score point is achieved by opening the black door, so destroying all of the mud. We're nowhere near able to kill that yet, so we'll come back later. Over here we have a sword, which we get if we kill 2 mud babies, 2 spiders, and 2 evil eyes. And we have a shield if we kill an antlion and 2 mud babies. Now notice that this is the wooden shield, which is 10 extra defense. But in the other way, this is the short sword, which is 20 attack, so that's actually doing us even better. Well, which is the best option to take? Well, the 20 attack is going to very, very substantially reduce the damage of every single monster in this level, which is mostly these monsters, but I think we have some roach queens and wraithlings as well. So the sword will pretty much more than halve the damage, or at least half, of every single monster that you can see on this screen. It is very, very powerful on this level because of the way that this works. You see, everything's going to be getting a lot cheaper. Now the shield will save 10 points of damage from every hit. So if we were to swap the order of the sword and the shield, if we get the shield first, how much health are we actually going to be saving on this, getting the sword? So we can do a little bit better in terms of actual hits. In fact, we can reduce this down to 5, 3 and 2, so without a sword. So if we did that, we'd be taking about 20 hits. So that would be 200 health that we're going to save by getting the shield first. By the way, although I've not looked through the rest of the level, it should probably be no surprise that going for the equipment as soon as possible is a lot better. Now on the other hand, if we get the sword first, we can reduce the damage of all of these to roughly around about 90. We're going to take mud babies down to only 2 hits and antlions down to 1, and that on its own is going to be about 200 off of each of these basically, and there's 3, so we save about 600 by getting the sword first. In addition to that, the sword is just way better against every other monster on the level, so it should be clear that we want the sword first in this level. Now I did mention that a lot of these enemies are very, very close to attack checkpoints. There is actually another attack checkpoint for the mud baby, which is 4 more attack after this one, so with 6 more attack we can save 2 hits from the mud baby, and we can save 1 hit from spiders and 1 hit from evil eyes. So can we get enough attack? Well, there is 2 attack that we've left behind in the previous level, so what else is there in this level to see whether or not it's worth farming up some stats first. So we have a mud baby with, this is now 2 attack by the way because the multiplier's gone up, and 2 mud babies with even more stats. The mud babies are pretty challenging right now. We have mud babies blocking off a path to even more stats. This room here has a choice. You can either go for this or you can go for this. Well, the stats are very significantly better. You'll recall that a large health potion is the same as 1 attack gem, and there are 2 more attack gems down this path, so the stats are just way better in that room. But we have to kill quite a lot of mud babies. Now in this room we do have another fairly easily accessible attack gem behind 2 eyes, and we actually don't have to kill one of them. We can take damage from 1. It is 3 hits, and we can reduce that to 1 when we've got the sword. Here there is attack behind lots of money gates. These are 20 each, so we need about 80 grackles. That's quite a lot of grackles. We are not really going to be able to open either of these, 80 or 100, in reasonable time for the equipment, so never mind those. Again, 2 mud babies with stats, but this is just worse than this option here. And the last room, we have attack gem behind even more evil eyes than that other room here. This one just behind 2, but here it's 3 plus an extra hit. And we have this shield gem as well behind these doors. So, can we get to 6 attack? Well, yes we can. We can get 6 more attack, my apologies, before we pick up the sword. And there are 3 good sources of attack. Number 1 is the door that we skipped on level 1. The other one is here, and the last one is here. Now, we don't have very much health, and this is quite expensive to take on. And so even though there is health behind various grackle doors, so here is one and here is the other, in reality we're going to need a little bit more health than that. So we are going to need to pick up a large health potion somewhere. So there are a bunch of them about. There's 3 in this room. and there's one here. Now this one's interesting because this guy gives us attack as well, so this is a really, really nice cache for us to try and pick up, even though it is a mud baby and they can be dropped substantially. Recall that these give us 400 health, and so we do get enough extra health that we're going to need to take on the sword. So I think what we're going to be doing is we're going to be picking up this attack, and we're going to be picking up this attack, and we're going to be picking up the attack on the previous level as well. Now there is one last consideration for stats that we might want, and that is this shield gem. So this evil eye, we can reduce this down to 1 hit after we've got the sword. So if we took this early, like let's say we spent the money that we had and got this shield gem now, how many hits would we actually be saving? Well, if we go for this first, we don't have the money to collect the attack on the first level. But we will make a saving on this eye here and this one, and we're going to be better off just taking damage from this eye rather than kill it, and that is because we can eventually come back with the shield and take much less damage on the final hit if we leave him alive. So we're going to be taking 3 hits from this and 2 from him, so that's 10 health saved. Once we have that attack, this guy will go down to 5 hits, so that's another 10 health saved. So we do save 20 health. And then we have the shield gem for all of these, which will be another 20 hits. So we're going to save quite a lot. If we get this defense gem, it is actually worth trying to pick this up as soon as possible. Now the only other problem is that we have the other attack gems on level 1. We need 20 more Greckles to actually get them. Well, if we're killing this guy here for 8 Greckles, and we're killing this eye for 5, we do need another 7 Greckles from somewhere. Now recall that we don't really want to kill this guy because he can be saved from the shield. So one of the enemies in this room, and specifically the spider, because he is not reliant on that final attack gem, what we could do is we could kill one of these, and then we will have enough money to go back and pick up the attack, which will reduce the damage from the mud babies and the evil eyes in this room. So overall, if we were to collect this now and spend the Greckles here, we would save a total of 26 health over if we picked it up as soon as possible, but got the attack first. And the reason for that is because these enemies here, there's 10 hits from these, and there's going to be 4 hits from these, and there's going to be 6 hits from these. You know, there is 20 hits in this room, so it's still going to be worthwhile to consider picking up this gem before we get the sword, even if we have to kill this spider first and then come back and kill this eye. Now if we do that, we will have 6 attack, and this evil eye will go down in damage as well. So basically, ultimately we have a decision here, and that is, do we want to spend our money on going for the defense first, or do we want to spend our money on the attack first, considering that we want the defense and the attack both as soon as possible? Well, if we get the attack first, we do save 20 health off of this eye because we reduce him by 1 hit, and we also save 8 health from the roach that was up on the first floor that was guarding, that we killed it because we didn't get the attack first. And that's a total of 28 health. If instead we get the defense first, we will be saving 10 on the eyes, we will be saving 10 on this, and we will be saving 6 because this guy's going to go down to 3 hits. And that's a total of 26 health saved. Now that's actually 2 hit points worse than getting the attack first. So we have decided, therefore, that the best thing to do is to go back and to actually pick this up first, and this is better than getting the defense first by 2 hit points. Now that doesn't really matter as far as the score from the score checkpoint is concerned, because 2 health is not enough to reach a new score boundary, but if we want to do this optimally, we do have to play. this properly. So now that we have that 2 attack, this mud baby that we're going to kill anyway has gone down to 4. Or it's gone down, sorry, to an attack. We're not going to reduce this guy any cheaper. So it doesn't matter whether we kill this mud baby or we kill these eyes first. So while we're here, we're just going to kill this guy. Now we're going to come in, we're going to take damage from this eye. And as you can see, we are 7 Greckles off of getting the defense. So here, there's no more attack we're going to be picking up. Even though this spider is close to another attack checkpoint, there is no more sources of attack that are worthwhile given the amount of health that we would save. So we're just going to kill one. That brings us to 40 Greckles, which is enough to go and kill this eye. Because recall that this eye is actually making us savings when we go for the sword, because the defense, we're taking so many hits going for the sword, sorry. In addition to that, going through this door does actually gain us some health that we are going to need to pick up the shield. But in general, it was still a saving anyway, picking it up now. So this health that we now have, thanks to the 400 behind that mud baby, this is now enough to kill all of these remaining monsters and to get the sword. Now we do need some more HP, so if we come over here, whoops, we do really want to get the shield next. And as you can see, it's going to be roughly about 240. So we need about 50 more HP. Well, now that we have 40 Greckles, there is another set of Greckle doors that we can open that are going to give us more health. And that's these. And that gives us enough health to pick up the shield. So that's what we're going to do now. And the shield comes along with a load of HP as well, which is really nice. So we're all fully kitted out for this level. This is really good. So this has made a massive difference to all of the enemies. So as you can see here, this Mud Mother, there's not enough attack left to make it free, basically, reduce that last hit. So any sort of further savings that we're going to get on the boss is going to come solely from defense. But because this is a score checkpoint, for the purposes of this particular score checkpoint, we are going to clean up everything that we can, pick up as much stuff as we can before actually fighting this. So first things first, let's take a look at the other enemies. So again, mud babies are not getting cheaper from attack. In this room, Wraithwings are already free. Roach Queens are getting there. They could become free, but spiders and mud babies are not. So again, they are enemies. And the evil eyes, these are all enemies that are only going to be reduced by defense. More mud babies. And more eyes and queens. So it seems pretty clear that with the exception of the Roach Queens, and the Roach Queens are not actually hiding any attack or defense, we really want to be getting defense first. So what's the best defense to start with? Well, we want to be taking the defense that takes the least hits. So 2 mud babies is 4 hits, and down here there is 2 mud babies, 4 hits. But here is 1 eye and 1 spider, and they give 1 hit each. So this is the best shield gem to pick up now. So we're going to take them. There is also a shield gem over here, but this is behind 4 babies, so it's even worse. Now the next best defense gem is going to be either this one or this one. The order technically doesn't really matter, but this one has even more goodies behind it, so we are going to go for this one. Now while I'm here, actually, I am just going to quickly make a save, and you'll see why later. Now we're going to pick up this defense. while we are here, we might as well collect this attack. It's not really doing much for us right now. And now it's time to collect the last defense. Again, we can't actually make these guys any cheaper, so we are just going to go for these. Don't forget to kill these ones first to get the defense. So there we go, we've picked up all of the defense that we're going to get. This trade here is clearly very good. Recall that green keys are worth 2 yellow keys, and this is 4 yellow keys. So we're just going to make that while I'm in that room. So now let's see where we are after we've picked up all the defense. Well, now everything is free except for spiders and mud babies. So while I'm here, let's just pick everything up that we can. Spider will not get any cheaper, so we can do that now. And similarly, neither will the mud baby. Now here, this 2 attack is worth the equivalent of 1 yellow door, but this 100 health, it takes 400 health to make up another yellow door, so we're not going to be picking this up. If you recall, the attack makes absolutely no difference against the boss or against any of the enemies that are left, so there is no purpose at all in picking that up. We also now have enough money to pick this up. The reason why we go for the grapple doors is because money is not actually worth any score at the end, so we would always rather open that. And we can kill all of these as well. Again, similar to last time, you know, this is 4 defense, and each defense is worth 3 points, and this costs 30, so that's clearly not very good. That's why we're not picking that up. So we've basically cleaned out this level before the boss. The only thing we haven't done is cleaned out the previous level, so we're just going to do that quickly. So this particular score point had 2 pretty major decisions in it, essentially. It only really had 2 real decisions, and one of them was which piece of equipment do we get, and then a much more tricky one was what stats do we pick up before we go for the equipment. And there was a little bit of thinking there, but it was mainly determined by the amount of health that we needed, and that's why we had to kill this guy first. Now when it comes to killing this mud mother, bear in mind that we have to fight it when we cut the corners, but only while the eyes are still alive. So the best way to clear all of this mud is to get to the eyes in the smallest number of cuts. Because this can only be cut on the corners, the smallest number of cuts is 6 to take out one of these corners. These are all symmetrical, they're all 6 grid squares. And then you can stab the eye in the corner like this. Now if you've played the regular DROD games, you actually normally, when you kill a mud eye, it won't actually cut the mud underneath like it does in this game, so this would not normally be possible. But we can actually kill this mud mother in only 8 hits because this is DROD RPG and not regular DROD. So at this point all of this mud is then free to cut. And that gives us our final score with an HP of 2445 and score of 572. And that is optimal, but I believe that's also optimal in terms of health as well. As you can see, we are 5 HP above the nearest score boundary, so whether you went for this defense first before the attack, you would have ended up with 2443 if you'd played everything else optimally, and you still would have got the same score. But otherwise, you know, we might as well do it all optimally. So that was that score point, and then we have a very short level to come next for the final score point. But what we are going to do is we are going to load the game, and we are going to go back in time a little bit because there are more stats available on the next level, so we can do this level a little bit better. So what I've done is basically everything is exactly the same, picking up both pieces of equipment, and then we killed an eye and a spider here, because that was only 2 hits to get 2 defense. And if you recall that we're going to need at least 8 hits on the boss, then that's a pretty good trade-off. Right, on the boss alone we're saving 16 HP for what is 2 hits. And if we're going to be getting 8 defense, then maybe it would be better off leaving the eye and the spider until after the boss. But although there are a bunch of stats after the boss on the next level, we aren't going to be getting 8 defense, so it's going to be better off picking up the those stats first. Now, I do say 8 defense. What I do mean is that 8 immediately after killing the boss. There are more enemies down on the next floor, but there are some stat pickups that we get straight away. Now, what I also did was I saved us killing these 2 mud babies in order to get attack and defense. But you'll notice that I didn't save the game after killing these, which came next. And why did I choose not to do that? So these mud babies here, there was no chance of reducing them to 1 hit on the previous score checkpoint because there wasn't enough attack available. But on this next score checkpoint, there actually is enough attack available. And so what we want to do is we're going to save a lot more HP. So we can save around 30-ish, probably a little bit less because we're going to get some more defense if we can wait to kill the mud babies a lot later. Now, in that calculation, the attack that was behind these 2 mud babies is going to be necessary to reach that point. So we cannot actually reasonably reduce these mud babies by number of attacks. So we might as well collect it now. And as it turns out, the amount of defense that we're going to get is going to save us from killing this boss and some monsters that are coming up next, versus the defense that we would save on these. In reality, it actually doesn't matter whether we kill these now or not, but I will demonstrate to you a little bit later why that is. But in the meantime, let's actually take a look at the next level. So we are going to go ahead and we're going to kill this, and we're going to open this door again. Now bear in mind, a lot of the decisions that I'm making here, whoops, you sort of can't make them until you have actually, of course, gone through and you know what's coming up. So we're just going to take a look now. So this is the last level. As you can see, it's barely anything. We have this room here with Solus and Grey Men, and we've got a ×3 multiplier. We have this room here. Again, there's only these 2 enemies. And behind 2 blue doors, we have the final boss, which is currently dealing an absolutely absurd amount of damage because we are exactly 1 attack point above his defense. This swordsman is still going to be hitting us for over 1,900 damage at the end of the hold, and that is quite a lot. In fact, this hold, it's very, very easy to run out of health by the time you come up to fight the final boss, and that is about to impact a decision that we are going to make. So first things first, you may have noticed that there are some completely free stats here to pick up, and we get a choice. We can pick up 3 attack and 300 health, or we can pick up 3 defense and 600 health. Now, as you know, attack is more valuable for the final scoring. Each attack point you have gives you 5 score, whereas each defense only gives you 3. So the more immediate thought would be that going for the attack is going to be better for your score later on. And in theory, that would be true. If we play through this whole hold by picking up the attack and making all the decisions that we want to make, and we come down at the end to the final boss, we would end up beating the final boss with 1 more score than we would if we go for the defense instead, except for the fact that we actually don't have enough HP. So this defense that gives us 300 more hit points is actually necessary in that we need the HP to actually defeat the boss. Now, there are other ways of getting HP. So, for example, this trade-off loses us HP. We could just not go for this. Or, if we go back to the previous level, we have a door that has some health behind it. We could open this, spend a yellow key on 200 hit points. But we don't want to do either of those things because that actually loses us more than 1 point, and so it wouldn't be the optimal path anymore. So because in the end the amount of health is so tight in this hold, we actually cannot get the attack, even though it seems like it would be correct. Now, there is more stats to get here, and these Solus are not even remotely fightable, but we don't have to fight them. We can just walk through their swords and take 4 hits. So that means in the end that with the boss on the previous level and these two soulless, we end up taking 12 hits in order to pick up 6 defense and 3 attack. So the 2 defense that we got from this pair of mud babies essentially over 12 hits saved us 24 health. Now had we left these guys and defeated the mud mother and took damage from the soulless first and come back here, we would have saved 6 HP on each of the 4 attacks that we received here. And that's also 24 health. So it actually didn't matter at all, because the attack in both of these scenarios is completely irrelevant. It didn't matter which order we did these in, but I decided to just leave this one first because that's the order I did on the previous run through. So now that we have more attack, we are inching very much closer to actually making these mud babies cheaper. So let's just reassess where we are. So eyes and wraithwings are free, 2 more attack, and roach queens will be free. Well, if we go over here, we have 2 attack behind these evil eyes. So we can just do this. And now all of these queens are free. And all of these enemies are free. So we're just going to do this. This cache here, in the previous score point, this was not worth it because you lose points by going for this cache. However, in this score point, because health is so tight, if we can save any damage from taking the attack, now we weren't going to save any damage at all in the last score point, but in this score point we actually can. And that combined with the 100 health is actually necessary to get the health that we need to eventually defeat the final boss. So we actually do want this cache. The attack is going to be worthwhile for us, and the health savings are going to be worthwhile for us. Now, do we want to open a green door or 2 yellows to get at this cache? And the answer is it doesn't matter at all, because they're both worth exactly the same amount. So you can make either of these choices. I like to use the yellow keys, and that is just because as I walk up here, I can just make this trade now. And that's the end of our use for keys. We actually are never going to spend any more keys in this hold. There are no more doors that we care to open. So lots of stats here. It would be nice if we can reduce these guys if possible. And let us not forget that we also have these guys. And we have a lot more grackles, so we actually have even more attack down here. So we should pick this up now. So now mud babies, 6 attack, and we get to save 26 damage per mud baby. So is this the correct thing to do? Well, before we make this decision, let's also just remind ourselves what's going on down here. So of the caches that we have more attack behind all of these enemies. And this is the best choice that we have. We have an attack and a defense behind a soulless. Well, recall that we have 6 attack and 2 defense behind all of those mud babies on the previous level, and we can save more than 146. We'll save about 150 damage if we can get that before taking on this soulless. Well, we have 26 health to save from each of 6 mud babies if we were to kill essentially 2 soulless, but that's going to cost us like 300 extra HP that we don't. So the correct decision at this point is to go back and kill these mud babies over here. And by killing these 6, we get enough attack to both make any remaining mud babies cheaper and also the soulless. So that's why we are now going for this. Now by doing that, as you can see, we're now in a situation where there are 2 hits are going to give us this defense. Attack doesn't matter for these mud babies anymore, and 2 hits is definitely the cheapest defense that we have. So we're just going to do this now. So that wasn't worth doing before because we saved 50 damage by killing these mud babies first, and we took 12 hits from all of those mud babies in total, and the defence didn't actually save us enough to make that worthwhile. We do not need to gather any of these yet, but I've just noticed that these spiders are free, so we might as well. But we might be able to make more savings on that mud baby. So we're almost there. We've cleaned up most of the enemies. So now there is 9 attack left, and there is 6 defense. Yes, so 3, 6, 9, and 6 defense. And there's no stats left on the previous level. So all but one of these attack gems will contribute towards the soulless to make them cheaper. But there is a soulless blocking every attack gem. In addition to that, one more attack gem will make the grey man cheaper. So clearly this one's going to be better because it gives us defense as well. And at this point the grey men are not going to be reduced anymore by attack, so we would rather get the last point of defence first. And now it doesn't really matter which order we take these on. We want both sets of attack, and we need both the blue keys. Now, is this worth taking? We actually lose health overall if we go for this. It is worth taking for the power gem. It is worth noting the final boss as well needs both of these points of attack to actually be made cheaper. So we're just going to be taking these. And we're going to take this last blue key. And then we're just going to make sure there's nothing left to clean up on the previous level. So we do need about 1900 HP. We're not quite there yet, but there was HP that we left on this level, and there was HP we left on level 2. There are also some monsters over in this room, but we really don't need Greckles at this point, so they were just ignored. And now we're going to head off with maximum stats to pick up the final HP cache. There we go, and we have 2119 HP, so that is plenty that we need to defeat the boss. And the only reason why we have so much health is again because we took the defense cache on this level that come with a load of extra HP. There you go, just over 1900. And so we're left with 211 HP. Now again, I believe that this is the optimal amount of HP that you can possibly have at this score point. So I believe that this is the perfectly optimised run through of 10-minute distraction. All the rest of this is just a staircase, so I could walk through it. But yeah, so in this final score point, the main decision really was about which of these that we want to take, and I just thought it was interesting that the way that this hold ended up being balanced was that because HP was so tight, you actually couldn't take what otherwise would have mathematically looked like the better option just because you run out of health. You know, if we take this option, we have, I think it's 78 HP short, and if it were possible to do that, so if there were like another medium potion somewhere in the level, like say you added a medium potion here or something, it would actually be possible to take this path, and this would have been the correct option, and we would have changed how we did things based on that. But because you can't get enough health while still taking optimal decisions everywhere else, we have to go for the defense instead. When people normally play this hold the first time, that boss does tend to knock people out because it's so heavily balanced. Some newer players actually do struggle. For some reason there's this pointless corridor followed by all these pointless staircases. I'm not really sure what the deal is. But there we go, that was 10 minutes distraction, and yeah, here we are. It took about 45 minutes to make this hold. So I just thought this was might have been a nice little interesting thing to see, how to optimise a very small hold. In general, the smaller a hold is, the worse defence is, because there's less opportunity to have it pay off, because there are less attacks and less monsters that you're going to be fighting. But rather interestingly, in this hold, it actually tends to work out that we had an option there where if you picked up the defense first on level 2, you ended up only 2 HP worse off than for going for the attack first. So it's fairly well balanced in that regard. Like, a lot of the enemies just don't really do very much damage overall. So yeah, anyway, I hope that was fun for you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.